I am Dr. Swannie Jett, and I have a passion for public health for over 30 years. Now, I'm in a position to affect change. And these are the critical conversations about health in our community with the people who can help me make those changes. Good morning. Welcome to CEO Live Talks. I'm your host, Dr. Swannie Jett, and I have a good friend with me, Mr. Guest, with me today.
What's going on, man?
Welcome to the set.
I appreciate you having me.
So, prior to us starting the show, we started to have conversation. I know you grew up in Smoketown.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your background and how you were able to maintain that moral fabric of who you are today.
Yeah, so I grew up in Smoketown, 926 South Jackson Street.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the home I grew up at is no longer there. It perished in the fire. I guess it was 2011, I think it was. Mm-hmm. But that's the house that my dad grew up in. We grew up there. Like, my family goes back to Smoketown until like the middle teens, early 20s.
Oh, wow.
Right? So over 100 years of a presence there in the city. So, but having like my grandmother, she's a McQuarrie because my grandfather, as a guest, he's from Madison, Indiana area. She's from, I forget what part of Kentucky we from, but she moved to Smoketown. Mm-hmm. And she was a Renaissance woman. She was did people's taxes. She was black folks, we were Republicans back then. She was her dad was a precinct captain.
Okay.
Yeah, and my grandmother succeeded him. From what I understand, she's the first black female precinct captain. Mm-hmm. And so if you wanted to get elected, you had to come see my grandmother.
Oh, wow.
You wanted the black vote in Smoketown, you had to come see my grandmother. She did everybody's taxes like she's a force to be reckoned with.
She was the matriarch.
She grew up. Her father, my grandfather, had had several businesses. She had her own car. Mm-hmm. She grew up what would people would consider today privileged. So when people talk about Smoketown, they think about the poverty and all the things that they associated. We didn't grow up rich, but I grew up privileged in a different way. And the privilege that I grew up with was the expectation of carrying that last name around. Okay. So, went to school to down the street, what is now Mazik, but it used to be a elementary school and a junior high school. So it was Booker T. Washington Elementary School and then Mazik Junior High, which is all now Mazik Middle School. But, it's back when all the teachers knew your parents, knew your grandparents. So I couldn't get away with anything. And I'm the youngest of five, so I had three brothers and a sister ahead of me, and they were all just really great at school. Like you said, that moral fiber, the expectation of us growing up being a certain way, carrying ourselves a certain way. So, I had the benefit of being privileged by having all of that in front of me. So even if I wanted to stray and go off on the to the wide path, to stay off the narrow path, there was always somebody to usher me back. No, you're supposed to be over there.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
So what's a nugget that your mother gave you growing up?
My mom was Hawaiian. My mom passed away a few years ago. So my father met my mom when he was in the Navy in Hawaii. Okay. At this Hawaiian girl he became infatuated with. Okay. So he met her, kind of chased her down, and finally met her, mm-hmm. and convinced her that he was the guy for her, and they ended up coming back.
What part of Hawaii?
Back here. Oahu, Honolulu.
Okay.
Yeah, she grew up not too far from Waikiki Beach.
Mm-hmm. I'm familiar.
And so, my mom was just, more than anything else, like my mom was always about dealing with the least of these. Mm-hmm. Like my mother used to babysit folks in the neighborhood or just really people around the city, like working moms who mm-hmm. wanted to go back to school or something like that. My mom would take the kids in and keep them forever, however long that they would have needed. It's like she was always taking care of kids. And I'm the youngest, right? So initially I was like a little jealous of that. It's like, why are you taking all these kids? I mean, I'm your baby, right? Even though I was like a teenager or older. It's like, but then, the nugget that she really taught me is like, it really is, it's biblical, deal with the least of these, right? Mm-hmm. Deal with the suffering of the children, bring the children unto me. Mm-hmm. And I learned that from my mom because that's how you can really understand who you are as a human being by pouring back into another human being, particularly young people, because they definitely have a future.
Definitely. And so your father being Navy, so he did a lot of travel. I'm sure he had a great trade. So what did he give to you? Because I'm pretty sure he bestowed some good wisdom.
You know, it's funny. My father worked two jobs. He worked third shift at the post office, and he had a sexton job at Christ Church Cathedral downtown in the afternoon. So, you know, my father, because he worked so much, you know, to provide for us, I didn't really see him a lot. Even though he was home, he was asleep.
Right.
I see him on the weekends, right? But the thing that my father taught me, without ever having to say one word to me, is be where you're supposed to be and do what you're supposed to do. Take care of your family. And, you know, be a great father and be a great husband, just by example, seeing it, right?
Right.
And so, you know, all of his children are in, you know, committed, monogamous, long-term married relationships with kids. And he didn't even have to tell that to us.
Right.
We just saw it every day.
You saw the example.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's important. It's better to observe than somebody tell you.
Yeah. Right, because we just saw.
That's the example.
And it wasn't even the thing where I really thought about. I mean, by the time I got married young. I got married when I was 23 years old. Mm-hmm. But I knew when I was 18, 19 years old, I was going to get married, and I knew I was going to get married young. But it wasn't something that I decided. It was just like, this is what you do.
Right. You know, talk a little bit about being the youngest, and what are your siblings doing?
Oh, wow. So, well, first of all, being the youngest, you don't really like that growing up.
No, you're getting your butt whooped.
No, so I'm the youngest of five. But I think, you know, I always say people can teach you two things, what to do and what not to do.
Right.
So I got some lessons of what not to do for my siblings because they blazed the trail for me. But I got a lot of great lessons about what to do. So I was able to sit back in the cut. Mm-hmm. So there's 10 years between me and the oldest. Okay. And then there's 2 years between me and my brother that's ahead of me. So my oldest brother, Harold Jr., he lives in Columbus. Mm-hmm. He had a career with Honeywell. He worked for Honeywell for over 30 years. Oh, wow. He's retired now. He and his wife are living in Columbus. He's retired, got grandkids. So, he's living the retired life. My sister, Mary, who's 9 years older than me. Now she's the only girl. And so Mary, because she was 9 years older than me when I was born, she kind of took me as if I was hers, like I was a little doll or something. So, she gave me a head start on life. I mean, I was probably reading by the time I was 4 or 5 years old because of her. Wow. Like she would sit me down and with books and teach me, how to read. She poured a lot into me. And so, I'm forever grateful to her for what she's done. But she was interesting that she started working at Kroger when she was like 15 years old. Mm-hmm. She still works at Kroger, but she's also, she works at JCPS. She's an English teacher at Fairdale. So She's been at Fairdale for, I guess, around 20 years, or if not a little more, as an English teacher. She had a bachelor's from U of L and then went back. She got a bachelor's right out of high school, was working at Kroger, was making good money, decided to stay there. But then, she got that bug of just who she is. And I think it comes sort of from my mom in terms of dealing with young people, but my grandmother in terms of education. So she went back, got a master's degree, University of Louisville, and went to JCPS, and started teaching at JCPS. So there's a lot of young people walking around in this community that how it is with a teacher, right? And how they pour into folks. And with my sister Mary, and then my brother Daniel, same thing. He's like my older brother. He'd worked for I forget what it's called now, but it was ADT, but I forget what company they've morphed into now.
Oh yeah, they've changed.
So he's worked there for over 20 years. He's the head of the deacon board at Bates Memorial Baptist Church, and he's got 4 kids, grandkids. He's doing this thing. I guess at some point he's going to get near retirement, but he's salt of the earth doing his work out in the community. And my brother Chet, who's 2 years older than me, Chet lives in. He used to be the chief technology officer at GE Appliances here. Then he moved to GE Corporate in Cincinnati, and then left GE Corporate in Cincinnati to go work for Kingdom Capital. You familiar with Dave Stewart, the billionaire, black billionaire? So yeah, my brother is working, doing work with Dave Stewart for Kingdom Capital in St. Louis.
We are here in the community. We partner with our community health workers to run vaccination clinics throughout the city of Louisville, specifically downtown in the West End. The importance of events like these is that a lot of people have transportation issues, so we are able to come out into the community and get people the vaccinations that they need.
So it's really important to have these type of events in the community because, as we know, when COVID and flu season comes around, our underserved communities are hit the hardest. So if we can bring any vaccines or anything that they need, glucose testing, it's important to meet people where they're at.
At Park Duval, we care about the community. We do events like this monthly because we are the community and we love to give back to the community.
Be sure to visit our website for more of our upcoming community outreach events.
For more information, visit us online at pdchc.org.
Hello, I'm Dr. Swannie Jett. Please make sure you visit one of our 5 locations, not only in Louisville, but outside of Louisville and surrounding areas. Thank you. What do you attribute that family work ethic, and they just stay at one job?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's not true for me. That's them.
Well, you moved around a little bit, but you had a chance to observe.
Yeah.
But your siblings, though.
Well, I mean, I think they're a different generation, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's they're a little bit, they're older than me, but a different generation, particularly my oldest brother. And so with my dad, it's like you get in, you get a pension. It's back when they still had pensions, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so it's about you see it. I guess part of it is seeing it and not really realizing that it gets into your pores. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we see, you probably see this in your work. People observe pathology, mm-hmm. right? And it's it's not what's wrong with you. It's what happened to you. What are you? Right. So it's good and bad, right? So whatever it is that you're getting into your system by osmosis, that you're around every day, has a big contributing factor to what you actually are going to do in life, or what path you're going to take. Right.
Yeah, that's very interesting. The older generation believed in loyalty to the company, mm-hmm. and the younger generation now is loyal to self.
Yeah,
which is
but I think there's another factor in that as well, is that. When you take, particularly for Black folks, if you get an opportunity, it's a good opportunity, you're going to hang on to it. Right. I think there's more opportunity now, but I think that is coupled with, I want the opportunity for myself and I'm going to maximize it for me, not necessarily something that I see myself being attached to, where it's a partnership.
Mm-hmm. No, I kind of agree. And, days past, we interviewed. Now we interview companies. Mm. So it's a little bit different, and you look for the perfect match.
Yeah,
5 along that works, and then now we have more opportunities, so people sort of tapping us, and so we have a different perspective.
Yeah.
So where did you go to school at?
Well, the Louisville question, where I went to school, I went to Male High School. Mm-hmm.
Everybody in Louisville wants to know.
Yeah. I went to Brook and Brick Male High School, graduated in 1984. Dang, it's my 40th reunion this year. Wow, that's crazy. After Male, I went to Boston University in the 6-year medical program. Mm-hmm. I thought I wanted to be a doctor. If you're good at math and science, mm-hmm. People always tell you, well, you need to be a doctor, right? And so, I got to BU, and man, I was not prepared. I mean, no disrespect to JCPS, but I was not. That was pre-AP classes and all that other stuff that was available here. Mm-hmm. Man, I got there were kids from Phillips Academy and, folks showing up as sophomores. Man, my first class was a 300 level chemistry class as a freshman, day one. Yeah, if you're going to graduate from med school and get, in 2 years of undergrad, go straight to med school, you can't start with chemistry 101. Right. You got to start as a junior.
Right.
And so, I think two things happened at the same time. Is that one, he was like, wow, this is crazy. I mean, I guess I could have buckled down and got it, but I just wasn't prepared. It wasn't that I wasn't as smart as those kids. I wasn't prepared.
No, it's a shock.
Yeah.
And the only reason I understand where you're going, a lot of people probably don't. I taught at Boston University. So I taught community health assessment, strategic planning, and probably was marketing and public relations. So I was the health commissioner in Brookline, Massachusetts at the time. So I'm very familiar. And tuition now is $60,000 a year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
60,000.
Yeah. So I got there, man, and it was, it was a shock. But then I was like, you know what? It made me sort of, had to reassess what I wanted to do, right? And I found out pretty quickly I didn't want to be a doctor. I mean, my heart wasn't really in it. I was just listening to what other people were saying to me because I was good at math and science. So I ended up coming home and going to University of Louisville. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, right? It was just at that point I was like, you know what, so I decided, it's interesting because my best friend when I was there was a guy who was a junior, Winston Elliott Smith. And Winston was majoring in economics. And I was like, I'm gonna try economics just because it's not gonna tie me down to anything. So if you go into something like marketing or go into something specific, I didn't want to go into art history or something like that. It was something that nebulous, right? But I said, economics I can figure it out. If I'm gonna go into business or something, the econ is gonna give me a good foundation to be able to do that. So I majored in economics, and right around my junior year, I read an article about like the top jobs in America. And like at the very top was the actuarial profession. And basically it said if you passed one of those actuarial exams, by the time you graduate from college, you guarantee yourself a job and you can make good money. And so so I minored in actuarial math, and then I passed one of those exams while I was in my senior year, and ended up getting a job at what was then Capitol Holden, which turned into Providian, which turned into Aegon. The building, the big dome building downtown they built that building while I was working for them. And got a job. Now, what's crazy is this is 1990, and I got a job because I had passed one of those exams with a bachelor's degree, making in 1990, $33,000 a year. That was a lot of money back then. I mean, some folks get out of college now making that kind of, making in the 30s, right?
Well, I was a little upset when I got out, and I was making 27 at that time.
Right. So. Yeah, I mean, because if you pass one of those exams, I mean, like it wasn't easy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, those exams were no joke.
No.
But so I found out very quickly. After doing that for 3 or 4 years, I was like, I don't want to do this. This is not me either. Because I really didn't want my life's work to just, satisfy my economic, my economic desires and dreams and what I wanted, my bank account, but also that of the company. I wanted to see how my work was going to make a difference for someone beyond myself. And I wasn't able to see that very clearly in what I was doing there. So I was like, I got to get out of here. So
what was your dream growing up? Because it seemed like you started down a path, and it probably was, and it happens to all of us, your family telling you what you should do, but you really have to find your own path, what you want to do. So what was your initial thought growing up?
I mean, I didn't, if I look back on it, I mean, I didn't really envision myself, I think about it, walking around in a white lab coat or anything like that as being a doctor. I just, I knew I was going to graduate from college. I knew I was going to be successful in whatever it was that I did because I had just seen it, right? With my family. Like I had seen, and I knew that the expectation of me, that it was not going to be no one was going to accept anything less from me than living up to my full potential.
Not with three brothers.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. But what's funny is what I had the most passion for is what I eventually ended up doing. But I never thought that there was a way for me to do it, which was music. I mean, I was not a musician. Like, no one ever came to me and was like, you should play an instrument. I never played an instrument in school. But I was into music, man. I remember my first album I bought was in 1973. I was 7 years old. And I told you I lived on Jackson Street between Caldwell and Breckenridge. Mm-hmm. And there was a store, Vine Records. It's right where that CVS is now on Broadway in Preston. Mm-hmm. And the Louisville Slugger Bat Company was behind that. So now I'm 7 years old. And my parents, this is a different day, right? 1973. My parents used to let me walk up to the Vine Record store. And I would go in there and hang out for half the day, just being there listening to music. Mm-hmm. A little 7-year-old boy walking up there. So I saved up my money, and I bought Stevie Wonder's Inner Vision album in 1973. And later that year, I bought Herbie Hancock's Headhunters on 8-track. And so, I was just this little kid, man, at 7 years old, just fascinated with music and just loving music, listening to music all the time. It was always a passion of mine, but I never looked at it as as a way to make a living doing it, because I wasn't a musician. Right. But it always stuck with me. So if you ask me what I thought about as a kid, what I really wanted to be, I didn't really think of it that way, but I was like, wow, I really love doing this.
Hello, my name is Sierra Clark, and I'm the Chronic Disease Manager at Park Duval Community Health Center. Ever since I started at Park Duval over 9 years ago, I have been committed to helping patients live healthier lifestyles. I am currently serving patients in the Chronic Care Management Program, or CCM program. My team and I help patients manage their chronic conditions such as obesity, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes. In this CCM program, you will receive several benefits to help you manage your health. We offer monthly telephone calls to check in with your progress and to assist you with any concerns, assistance with scheduling your healthcare appointments, and assistance with filling your prescriptions in a timely and convenient manner. We also offer many resources to help you with the barriers you may face with eating healthy, being physically active, or monitoring your conditions at home. For more information, visit us online at pdchc.org or visit one of our health centers.
Hello, I'm Dr. Swannie Jett, CEO for Park Duval Community Health Centers. We conduct WIC, nutrition, and open enrollment for healthcare. So this is a one-stop shop facility for everybody in the community.
We are here in the community. We partner with our community health workers to run vaccination clinics throughout the city of Louisville, specifically downtown in the West End. The importance of events like these is that a lot of people have transportation issues, so we are able to come out into the community and get people the vaccinations that they need.
So it's really important to have these type of events in the community because, as we know, when COVID and flu season comes around, our underserved communities are hit the hardest. So if we can bring any vaccines or anything that they need, glucose testing, it's important to meet people where they're at.
At Park Duval, we care about the community. We do events like this monthly because we are the community and we love to give back to the community.
Be sure to visit our website for more of our upcoming community outreach events.
For more information, visit us online at pdchc.org.
Hello, I'm Dr. Swannie Jett. Please make sure you visit one of our 5 locations, not only in Louisville, but outside of Louisville and surrounding areas. Thank you. So how did you go from being an actuary to transition your career? You wanted to benefit and help other people.
So this is a funny story because the Lincoln Foundation, I don't know if you're familiar with the Lincoln Foundation. Lincoln Foundation is an educational foundation that came out of Berea College in the early 1900s. They work with economically disadvantaged, academically talented young people, particularly African American. And so I had gone through a couple of their programs when I was in middle school, and the president, Dr. Sam Robinson at the time, I knew him and his daughter and I went to middle school together, and his daughter and my wife went to college together. And so, someone had told me that worked with him that he was, they had a position open. It was his administrative assistant. And I was like, he's like, no, man, don't think of it that way. He's like, the administrative assistant. They have a secretary, administrative assistant, kind of like runs, as chief of staff, kind of runs the office. He said, man, you should look into that. And I was like, okay. So I went and talked to him. And I was like, hey, I understand you got this position. And he was like,
why are you over here with me? You Mr. Corporate guy, an actuary guy. He said, man, we can't afford you.
Right. And I really wanted to get out. And I was like, it ain't even about the money for me. It's like, And so we had a conversation. He's like, okay, if you want the job, it's yours. I said, I'll take it. And so I went home and told my wife, Cheryl, I was like, because she knew I was not happy doing what I was doing. I was like, hey, I just talked to Dr. Robinson, and he offered me the job to be the administrator. She said, oh, that's great. She's like, how much money you gonna make? I said, I don't know. We didn't talk about that. She's like, what? I said, we didn't talk about that. I just needed to get up out of there.
Yeah, that didn't go well.
But that was like my first. I've done this several times in my career, and that is a faith. I had to have the faith that what it is that actually the urge for me to leave was stronger than the urge to be there. Right. Because I knew I wasn't where I was supposed to be. Right. So even if I didn't get exactly what I wanted, I knew it as long as it wasn't that, and then I was getting towards being able to help and do something for someone other than myself and see my life's work as a part of that, I was willing to do it. But what's deep is I made less money on paper than I did at Providian, but because they paid for all my benefits, I took home more money.
Interesting.
So that was the blessing of it. So that was like the first real lesson in faith for me, which is if you do what it is, if you trust in me and do what it is that I'm calling you to do, even on paper, if it looks a certain way to the outside world, it's going to be different for you if you trust.